Hi everybody, today we're going to go over multiplication tables, and in this video I'm going to give you a bunch of practice with multiplication and start you to memorize the multiplication table. One thing about multiplication is that if you memorize the multiplication table, it'll have huge payoffs later on when you do math, so it's best to learn it now and then not forget about it later. So what is a multiplication table? That's all the different numbers up to 12 being multiplied by each other. And so before we actually go over the multiplication table, I'll start you on a little review of multiplication. So here we have just a little chart showing how to do basic multiplication and representing it as either charts with those little boxes or as addition. So looking at the first one, 3 times 3, that's just the same thing as saying 3 added by 3 times. So it's 3 plus 3 plus 3, and you get 9. 2 by 4, it's the same thing as saying adding 4 2's together, and that gets you 8. And 4 by 3 is the same thing as saying adding 4 3 times. That's going to give you 12. And then 5 by 4, same thing as adding 5 4 times. So that's going to give you 20. And looking at the boxes, it's just counting all those boxes up together. So first row, there's 9 boxes. Second row, there's 8 boxes. Third row, there's 12 boxes. And then the fourth row, there's 20 boxes. So that's just kind of a basic overview of multiplication that you guys should already know. I'm just reviewing it this you so you guys can kind of get the gist of everything. Okay, so here we have our first example of a multiplication table. As you can see, it's a lot of numbers, but it's pretty simple stuff when you go over it. So yeah, let's just dive a little deeper into what a multiplication table is. So looking at the first column, it's 0, and then look at the first row, it's also 0. So 0 by 0 is 0. And then moving towards the right, you can see that it's 0 times 1, which is 0, 0 times 2, which is 0, and then you see the pattern. Everything multiplied by 0 is 0. So that's the first kind of easy pattern you can see with the multiplication table. All right, moving down one row, we see it's 1. So then 1 times anything in the multiplication table is that number itself. So 1 times 0 is 0, 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 2 is 2, and then so on. Looking at the third row down, we have 2, and so 2 multiplied by anything is just double that number, as you can see. So 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 4 is 2, or 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 4 is 8, and so it just continues on like that. All right, so now we look at the 3 times row. So that's 3 times 1, which is 3, and then it's 3 times 2, which is 6, and then it's the same thing as saying 2 times 3, which we did above, so that's 6. So you can see the two of them are just adjacent to each other. And so every time here, we're going to be increasing by 3. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. And so it's just the same thing as saying adding another 3 onto the end of the first amount that you already did have. And so that's the pattern with 3. Okay, moving on to 4, we have 4 times 1. It's just going to be increasing by increments of 4 each time. So 4 plus 4, it gets you 8. 12 plus 4 is 16. 16 plus 4 is 20. 20 plus 4 is 24. So 4 times 6 is 24, and then so it's that repetition right there. All right, and then we move on to the 5s. So then 5 times 0 is 0, 5 times 1 is 5, there's no rules, and then so it's just 5 times 2 is 10, and then 5 times 3 is 15, so it's increasing by increments of 5. And so, I mean, if you guys learned how to tell time, it's pretty simple because you're multiplying by 5 each time. And so, yeah. So the 5 row on the multiplication table is the same thing as all the others, where it's just increasing by, so it's increasing by 5 each time. And so one pattern that you're going to notice here is that every other number ends in 5, and then the other number ends with 0. Because if you add 5 to each thing, you're going to get like 5 plus 5 is 10, and then 10 plus 5 is 15, and then another 5 and it's 20. So each time it's going to vary like that. All right, looking at the row with the 6 in it in the times table, it's just increasing by increments of 6 each time. So 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36. Moving down to 7, it's increasing by 7 each time. So 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 34, 42. Yeah. So then moving down to the 8, it's increasing by 8 each time. So it's 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48. Now looking at the 9 row, we got 9 times 0, which is 0, 9 times 1, which is 9, 9 times 2, which is 18, 9 times 3, which is 27. And the interesting about this row is that each of those numbers is already kind of displayed earlier in the chart, as you can see. In the 3 row by the 3 times 9, for example. So you got the 27 there. So it's just the inverse, or the reverse, sorry, of the two numbers being multiplied by each other. And so they'll be repeated into the actual chart, and you can see that. All right, with the 10 row and column, you can see that whenever you multiply a number by 10, you just basically add 0 to what that number is. So 10 times 2 is 20, 10 times 3 is 30, 10 times 9 is 90, 10 times 10 is 100. So you're just adding a 0 to the end of the original number that you're multiplying by 10. For 11, there's also a really easy pattern. It's just that number twice. So 11 times 2 is 22, 11 times 3 is 33, 11 times 4 is 44, and then 11 times 8 is 88. So you're just repeating that number twice when you multiply it by 11. Okay, so the best thing for you guys to do is to memorize this times tables chart, because it's going to be really helpful whenever you do math in your head, because it's just good to know all this. So I would recommend that you be able to learn this whole entire chart forward and backwards. I'll attach some more example charts down in the caption, and I'll include some worksheets, but yeah, so enjoy. Okay, and finally here we have just a little picture of a different way of looking at the graph, where it's got all the numbers on the multiplication table already multiplied out, and you can kind of see them listed. I think this is a good chart to look over if you're having trouble memorizing, and yeah,